Whatever grace it has been that has brought this discovery of the presence within, the Atma within, to come to light in this unworthy, silly, foolish man. I feel even more energized to try and make it alive for each of you. Because this holy presence of God, which is the very substance of life, most, even in spirituality, talk about it as if it is far-fetched, too difficult, takes many lifetimes, is very rare, one in a million. But it cannot be that way. Because if you were to tag this one on any of those parameters, this one would never have gotten to the select group of those who can find God within. There's zero chance. So, if there is grace which operates, if there is God's mercy that operates, and if it can happen for this one, then I see no reason why it cannot happen for each and every one. Now, for some of you have not been in satsang, so it may even sound like fiction. It may even sound like fiction, or it may sound like some things we've heard about, but it may sound almost surreal, almost unreal. But I want to tell you that compared to this, which is within all of us, it is this world which is unreal, a tiny blip on the field of consciousness, this tiny blip that consumes us completely for this life and maybe thousands of lives, till by the Master's grace, by the Sadguru's grace within, we realize that God is not a matter of belief. It's not a matter of belief, but God is a matter of faith. Faith being the ability to trust your intuitive insight, belief being the ability to buy into concepts. So, have you met God within? That is the first question. How does the question sound? Theoretical? Is it? Sometimes the question sounds very theoretical, so we may say, "Oh, in the Katha Upanishad it says this, and in this, in the Bible it says like that, and in this, in the Torah it says this." And but then Richard Feynman he said that, and we can become very theoretical about it. Sometimes we can get very poetic about it. Oh, yes, presence of God gives light to all of this, and it just becomes like mental, but beautifully mental in the form of poetry. Mhm. Now, I'm going to submit to you that both of these are avoidance. So I want you to treat this question like if I said, okay, what did you eat for lunch? You see, would you become theoretic or poetic? You may have, but most likely not, isn't it? Most likely not. In the same way, when I ask you, have you met God's light within you? Treat it as literally as that. Don't allow your mind to trick you and distract you. It's a very, very literal statement. And I'm going to push it a little more by saying that, because if you haven't, you're leading a zombie life. Mhm. Dead man walking, and that which is going to die soon might as well take it to be dead. Is there, have you met eternal life within yourself? And that is the fundamental question. To abide, we'll come to in a moment. Abidance is important, but we must not talk of abidance till the discovery is made. You see, the discovery must be truly made. To put very simply, क्या आप भगवान से मिले हो? Have you met God? Mhm. And if you haven't, there's no time to waste. It is possible that I'm deluded, foolish, or a con man. It's possible. Yeah. But once you come across information like this, so someone is telling you God can be met and God is right here, and provoking you by saying that you're leading a dead life, a zombie life till you've met God directly, then with all your might, you must at least prove that this one is a liar or a fool or has some vested interest. But to get this information and to say, हाँ होगा देखेंगे. So in whatever 10, 12 years of sharing satsang, nobody's accused me of lying, being delusional, being a fool or a con man. Not openly anyway. So, but many, in fact, most just postpone it. You see, postpone it because of some mental fantasy which says, yes, but I have this to do. Yes, I have this responsibility. Yes, this is. You see, so I'll come to it. I know what you're saying is true. I know what you're saying is true, but I'll come to it. You see? But remember that this whole game is about time. This whole game is about time. The battle between the mind and the heart is for time. And I often take the example of my son who has never said no to me. You see? Never said no to me. But he always says tomorrow. And many of us who are parents can obviously relate to that. So be careful of this tomorrow. And sometimes it will seem like the whole Leela itself will collaborate to justify the decision for tomorrow. आज तो बहुत कुछ हो रहा है. It's just not possible. Today, not possible. Tomorrow, I'll have more time. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and do the EDS. EDS is the Atma Darshan Samadhi. Tomorrow, I'll start doing my practice properly. Tomorrow, I will inquire into the nature of who I am. Tomorrow, I will surrender my life to God. Tomorrow, I will do everything tomorrow. And suppose that even God is a concept for you. Suppose you feel like, what is this God stuff? I can guarantee you that you cannot make a claim on truths without coming to the discovery of God. or make a claim on God without coming to the discovery of truth. So whether in the beginning you say God or truth, it doesn't matter to me. But don't waste a waking breath. Find this living light within yourself. In whose light do you see the light of the sun? So I'm going to submit to you that this life is a wasted existence unless it is lived in the light of God. And coming from a former atheist, that's quite a strong thing to say. But if this statement wakes you up or it irritates you, you see, you must do something about it. Don't just leave it for tomorrow. That is the point. So have you met God? And have you? How many have met God? Wow, just one short break and all the hands have gone down. How many have met God? It's like I forced that answer out of you, so I'm not buying it. You will know. That's a good question. So I promise you, you will know. If you meet God, you will not be wondering whether, oh, that which I met, was that God? Yes, within. Within. Is it?
Could it be a yes and a no answer?
Tell me more.
Well, I know enough to know knowing. I can't talk about knowing, but
If it needs inferring or computation,
yeah, I'm doing that
easy,
right now to
then
but what I'm trying to say is, I know I can't escape that knowing. So is that what we are saying, or is there some extra revelation we're talking about?
yes and no. But till it's yes, it is no. Till it's yes, it's no. Remember that a presumed yes, you see, is much better than a no, is much worse than a no. Let me clarify. A presumed yes is way worse than a no. So if you're doing the must be, oh, I had the experience in meditation 5 years back, I went for Vipassana and there I found, something, and oh, that must have been it. Hmm. And maybe we need to change the question then and say, are you meeting God now? Confused? What are the two ends of the confusion?
Are you meeting God now? Like, I don't know how to do it.
Sorry?
So I just got curious, what's happening now? I don't know if you consider it a God or what, I don't know. So I don't know how to define God exactly. So And this is God.
Yes. Okay. So you're right that one way of defining God is to say everything is God. So when I'm eating everything, that means the content of my perception. That can also, we can say, yes, I'm meeting God. But okay, so thank you for helping me clarify the question. Are you meeting a presence within yourself, which is a holy presence? Yes.
Yeah.
Where is it?
The body.
Where do you experience it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is its any attribute, any guna, any shape, any size?
The adjective to use, like, is it cooling or calm?
It's like a calming presence.
Yeah.
The Can we define the boundaries of this presence? Where is it? Where does it start? Where does it end? I just want to make sure that it's not like a perceived image, you see, because the mind will also want to participate in this conversation and say, okay, he's asking for a presence. Hai to na. So it can do that. So we just have to be careful that we're not getting tricked by any imagery or any sort of visualization type of thing. And it's a very authentic Atma Darshan. Whole point is to come to Atma Darshan, which means that come to the discovery of the holy presence within, and in the light of which, only in the light of which, I may add, can the absolute reality of pure awareness or pure knowingness that she was mentioning get realized. But we'll come to the second part in a bit. So to come to this, and we refer to it by many names: Atma, Holy Spirit, Sadguru presence, light within, light of the universe. We use all these names for it just to point, in various ways and see if anything just clicks somewhere. So that is what we are really, as a real project, not as a spiritual discourse or just like a learning spiritual concepts, but as a real endeavor. Can we come and meet God in this way? And there is no real distinction between Atma and Paramatma. So to come to the Atma leads us to the ultimate discovery of the highest truth. So Jesus said something beautiful in the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Blessed are those who are pure of heart, for they will see God." So he's told us the prerequisite, pure heart. How would you meet that? What would this pure-heartedness be?
The catch is to meaningfully and also persistently, be in the peace. You have to give up the attachment to the worldly sensations and ascribing truth value to everything happening in time. You have to sort of look for the stillness and be the stillness. So you have to live in the heart. You can't. I mean, like Bhagwan says very beautifully. He says, just to quote, because he says, sort of, the wise man stays in the heart. The other way is if the mind comes to the heart, experiences it, but then goes back into the world, and then comes back as an experience, then you start feeling the transience. And that's really trouble because, and you're caught in a very bad way because you don't know what to take for real, and so that's the thing.
So only the pure-hearted can become empty of themselves. In a way, is what you're saying. Can become empty of themselves, and when they're empty of themselves, then they're not buying into selfish notions about what the world means, or notions about desire, pride, guilt, all of these things. So I would simply say today that if we work on just humility, work on just humility, which is the absence of taking ourselves to be special, then the rest of the pure heartedness will naturally be drawn from this. We may not realize it yet, but once we become more and more humble, then our faith deepens, our truthfulness, our compassion, our unconditional love, all of this deepens. And in fact, if you like really hate humility, I am something special. I have known it when I was born. An astrologer told my parents that he is the most special one, or she is the most special one that is ever born. So tell me anything, Ananta, but this humility business, you see. Or you think that, or which is the same thing, which is that you already think you are exceedingly humble. So, which is the same thing as pride. So you could say, okay, I will deepen my faith, or I will deepen my honesty, integrity, deepen my unconditional love, any of them. Because, like I was sharing the other day, it's like legs of one table. You pull at one, all the rest will also get dragged along. So, you don't have to get intimidated by the notion of becoming pure hearted, and definitely don't start trying to think pure thoughts. Not going to happen. So, don't fall into those traps. Just become humble, or become honest, or become loving, become compassionate, and the rest will automatically flow. What happens then is that the mechanics of delusion start falling apart. Mechanics of delusion start falling apart because how do we get, what is the reverse of empty? How do we become full of ourselves? Okay, let me spend a couple of minutes on the empty thing first. Most of you have heard me belaboring this point, of course, that the lane is too narrow for both me and God. If there is me, there cannot be God. If there is God, there cannot be me. So if you're hoping for a beautiful partnership, 50-50, God and me will high-five each other and we'll spend the rest of the day in collaboration. Both are discussing with each other, what should we do next in this world? It's not going to happen. And actually, I framed it that way, but it's not very far from how we live. It's not really far from how we live. But really, all the sages have told us that the lane is too narrow. Gali hai sakri. There's not enough room for God and me. जब मैं था तब रब नहीं, जब रब था तब मैं नहीं. So empty is a well-known prerequisite to come to the discovery. And even if by grace a discovery happens while there is pride, then the abidance in the discovery will not happen. So empty is a prerequisite for this. To live a life in the light of God, we cannot dissipate that light between God and me. And this is the part that is probably scary for all of us in spirituality. Am I ready to be empty? But examine the value system which determines what you consider important for you, which can then become more valuable, or you may say, like somebody in Sangha said, I don't know if I'm cut out for God actually. He said, and somebody who's been with me for quite some time, she said, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. But I want to submit to all of you that there is no option. It's not that you can say, no, I'm happy, I will live like me, and I will die with whatever we finished, and this life is over. You see? Then I would call that the biggest uh, mistake or the biggest folly, especially because you were told that it is possible to live in the light of God. It's not that you are looking at two roads and say, oh, should I take the bypass or should I go through the city? At the end, we have to get to the same point only. No, it's a difference between true life and our false attempts to make hell seem palatable. And I don't mean some patal lok, I mean right here. A life which is full of worry, stress, strife, pride, guilt, ups and downs every day. I'm one day so happy, one day so upset. That is hell. And all our tactics of desire, and I'll get this, then I'll be better, I'll get this, then I'll be better. If I only become like this, I'll be better. If I had this relationship, I'll be better. If I had this much money, I'll be better. If my body was younger, I'll be better. If I found some meaning in my life, I'd be better. You see, and the last one is a very popular avoidance as well. All of this is just trying to make this roller coaster, hellish roller coaster, palatable. You see? So if we say, oh, no, I don't know whether I'm cut out for this, what option do we have? I want to submit to you that there is no other option. And I also want to submit to you that don't get caught up in this sort of new age spirituality, which is talking about it'll be so easy and your life will become full of ease and peace. It'll be difficult. Expect that it will be difficult. To let go of ego, the Buddha himself said, one man, and these days we may say one person may defeat 1,000 armies, but to win over their own mind is even more difficult. So there is no other option, and it's not going to be easy, but it becomes easier with faith, it becomes easier with humility, it becomes easier with integrity. So the whole of spirituality basically is various ways or rivers flowing into how does one become empty for God. So whether it is sadhana, whether it is seva, whether it is devotional singing, whatever it may be, it's How do we come to this point of becoming empty of the false self so that we may come to the true self? Yeah. At this point, many regret coming to satsang. It's like, क्यों आया मैं? I was better off without being provoked in this way. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. You may say, it is what it is. If God wants me to find Him, I'll find God. If He doesn't, I won't find Him. I'm okay. Leave me alone. You may say that. Right? But really, dive into what your heart is calling you to do. That inner guide is always available to you. But if you say that I want to undertake this difficult journey of becoming empty for God, then I promise you that I will stand with you and I will pray for you and I will bless you every moment till you come to the same discovery which has happened here through God's grace. And I can only speak from direct experience here that for a large part of this life, I would have felt conversation like this is not just absurd, it's just plain foolishness. It's nonsense. Those who don't have faith in themselves, they invent this construct called God. Say, everything God does is just nice, feel-good idea. That was the primary construct I lived by for a long, long time. Then life slapped me around quite a bit, and then I started looking for answers. What's going on? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Who is here in the first place? All of these questions started. And with all that, every spiritual practice, everything done very badly, inconsistently, God's grace led me to my master. And sitting with him, I came to the recognition. Firstly, came to the recognition of the absence of a limited me and the presence of reality. But the thing is that both sides of this equation are infectious or want to spread. Individuality is infectious, wants to spread, you see. And those who have gotten the bug of the love for God, there is nothing they want to do but to spread that. And it's been this way for as long as the human condition has existed. So suppose that through God's grace we are pure hearted and therefore we are able to remain open and empty. You see, which is actually very simple. which is actually very simple. Open and empty only means thoughts are visitors. Keep your front door and back door open. Let them come, let them go. Don't serve them tea. Famous Zen saying, isn't it? That's open and empty. Sounds very simple. But the thought comes and scares us, saying, what will happen to you? But that is the you you're trying to be empty of. You see? So, to switch from the Maha Mantra of what's in it for me to a life of open and empty, conceptually is very simple, but it's probably the most difficult thing we will ever do. And because it is actually so simple and yet the most difficult, that is why in most branches of spirituality they've given you a practice or a way as to how not to grasp your mind, how not to grasp, because grasping is suffering. Now, true spirituality is about a complete acceptance. It is not a bypassing or an avoidance of even the slightest thing. You see, it's a pure acceptance. So when we say open and empty, it is not a repressive open and empty saying, don't come. You see, it is a welcoming open and empty saying, all thoughts are visitors, can come. Every emotion can come, every perception can come. You see? So it's a welcoming approach, saying whatever life has to throw at me, let it throw, but I will remain non-grasping. So, so it's a full meeting of everything that comes. Then the next question that you should ask, or you could ask, is, but then why you, Ananta, always picking on the mind? Huh? You're always picking on the mind. Don't go with the mind. Don't grasp with the mind. Man ki mat suno. Why are you doing that? Isn't that also a part of consciousness? And shouldn't we be accepting also of the mind? So, accepting the mind means that we allow its constructs to come and its constructs to go. That is to accept it. Accepting doesn't mean that if something is a lie or inadequate or primitive, we take that narrative to be our truth and live on that basis. It's subtle. Everyone with me? And if I was sounding academic, I can make it simpler. So accept what the mind is saying. It is saying, I hate that person. This one has done me wrong. This one is really lovely. It is making those judgments. We are accepting it is saying that. You see, we are hearing it out with our attention. You see? But has anyone ever been able to tell me what is this using their mind? Tell me this moment, what is this? Are you clearer about what this is? In natural pure perception, living in the moment, being in the moment, or if the mind was to tell you, this is Satsang with Ananta is sitting. You see, it takes all the light, the heart, the love, the presence out of the picture. So the mind's interpretation are always empty of God, very primitive and timid. And if we do such a bad job of interpreting one moment, how much credibility can we give to our stories of our life? Oh, my life was always like this, then I started like that, then this happened to me. So these narratives, they trap us. And they're so inaccurate. Nobody, you make a narrative about today's satsang, no two among you will agree on the same narrative. So reality is impossible to grasp with the mind. And right now, notice that we are just talking about the perceptual reality. We've not even talked about the elephant in the room, saying who is witnessing all of this. That is never captured in any narrative. The third bird is never part of any story. So just because you have a younger sibling who's always making up stories, telling you, oh, I had a younger cousin who every time I would go to my village to meet him, he would say, oh, last month Kapil Dev had come to my village and I hit his ball for a six. And he was like a tiny kid at that time. So just because you're accepting of them doesn't mean you're buying the stories, isn't it? What is the basis on which we can confirm that our mind's narrative is true? Very few actually even ask this question, because for us it just seemed like if it came to my head, it must be my truth. How many of us really even ask this question? If it is my voice, why do I need a telephone call to myself? Hello, this is what you're feeling right now. I'm really upset. It's you, you know it already. So, because, and you look across all cultures, all traditions, all of spirituality, they've always told you that the only way to take yourself to be the false limited self is to fall for the narratives from the mind about the past and future, and to let go of the false, to let go of the limited self to meet reality. We must not buy into these stories. Okay? Now, why is this scary for some of us? Because we have not yet experienced knowledge which is intuitive, or we have experienced it but we have not realized what it is. That we don't have to rely on this limited mental instrument which makes primitive judgments and concepts about everything that we perceive. There's something called intuitive knowledge, heart knowledge, which is the source of true insight. Right? And again, it's present in all cultures. We call it the Atma, Sadguru presence, Holy Spirit, Great Spirit. The other day we were looking, this is the stuff I do when the body is not well. No? So I was looking at various cultures and we're looking at the indigenous Americans, as they are called now, looked at how did they pray to this presence within the Great Spirit, they called it. So this Narayan sings, of course, very beautifully, the Wakatanka, Tukashila, very beautiful. Then we are looking at Africa, and these are why I'm naming all of this is that without any so-called evangelism or cultural spread, how people came to this discovery by themselves. So, in whatever period of time, whenever people searched for truth, they came across the Holy Presence. Some call it the Great Mother, some call it Great Spirit, and they've composed songs they composed, prayers. So how to become empty of the mind? One simple way is if we for some reason latch on to a question which we cannot answer and we cannot leave, the question comes like, who am I, or what is my purpose? That seems so important to us, central. That's why who am I is so beautiful, because it's so central. It's like, who am I? It's not about somebody else, not somewhere else. Who am I? Mhm. So then it's impossible to answer that question. Impossible in traditional empirical ways. Impossible to, because it's ineffable. So it's impossible to articulate. And yet, those who are looking for the truth cannot help it. They have to find out who they are. Because truth for whom? So that's a very popular approach to find a question which you cannot answer but you cannot leave. So this was forced also, like in the Zen monastery. The master, the guru would say, this is your koan, you have to solve it. You see, so you may hate the question, you may want to leave it, but you can't leave it because that was your only sadhana. So that is the way in which to let go of the dependence on the mind, to remain empty of the mind. The other is to surrender. Whatever it is offering you, God's problem, Guru's problem, Father's problem, surrender. Then you can go on, we've talked about this, you can chant, you can sing, you can do yoga, you can do pranayama, you can do various things. But no authentic spiritual path is going to tell you, no, no, you keep believing your thoughts, keep taking yourself to be the false one. You'll get there, don't worry. They will tell you something so that you break that pattern of false narratives. Now, I'm realizing more and more that a force multiplier in this is an active love for God. Whatever our, it may just be to be open and empty, but to be open and empty without the active love or the anchor of God can seem much more difficult. So I would suggest that no matter what your spiritual modality may be, love God. And actually, I would go as far as to even say, even if you don't know what your endeavor to be empty is, whether it's just to remain open and empty or whatever it is, start just by loving God wholeheartedly. And if we approach this with a deep love for God, then we'll get out of the whole spiritual Christopher Columbus syndrome. What is that? We talked about it recently. That so many of us like, oh, I looked within, I did inquiry. After 5 minutes, I came across consciousness. So consciousness. Very nice. And then I asked, who is aware even of consciousness? And I saw awareness. See? It's like discovering Africa, India, America. You see? And that is become very popular today. and I've contributed to that popularity. I'm well aware, but I'm making amends now. So when we come to consciousness, you're coming to a living presence, huh? A living presence of your own life, not like a living presence in a zoo saying, "Ah, there's a lion, there's." You see? Your own substance, your own reality, which is a living being, all love, all praise, all the good things that we have to offer can only be to that. So a deep, active love for God will help us not get into too like scientific or exploratory in our mindset. And that love will hold you steady. Yeah? Yes, hopefully. Yes. Yes, yes. But the beautiful thing with the active love for God also is that your love for God is also God's love for you. Have you noticed this? This love for God is, you can't say it is coming from my direction towards God or God's direction towards me. You try to actively love God, but when you look, you can't tell whether it is God loving you or you loving God. And of course, our Advaita mind will instantly say, yes, yes, because no to all. So let's keep that aside for a moment. So the living presence within ourselves is the source of this unconditional love. And the deeper you deepen in this love, the stronger you will be anchored in God's light. And the simpler you will find to be humble, faithful, compassionate. So remember that it's not a question of achievement. Oh, I found consciousness, I found awareness. You only had consciousness, I found awareness. No? Like, oh, actually, I don't know, I missed consciousness, I am directly at awareness, pure witness. Yeah? Yeah. So it just becomes like spiritual tick boxes. Mhm. But to love God with all your might will prevent us missing the crux of the discovery.
It's not a question, it's just a I'm sharing something. I was talking to one of my friend, and he's been in the path for a very long time, and recently he's been going through a lot, and he stopped his sadhana, and so he's gone to an extent where he was questioning whether does God really exist. And I've been talking to him for quite some time, and I mean, I'm sad actually. I don't know why I'm sad, but I'm feeling sad. And another person similar, uh, um, that person was also um, going through a lot of, and it was like, they believe that that black magic and such things exist and I'm being attacked, something like that. But honestly speaking, after coming here, right, being in satsangs for quite some time, I do not buy into any of these things, because I know that it's one thought away, I can go back to God. Sometimes when I'm alone, right, when certain situations happen, this mind comes up, and since I've gone through certain experiences, I sometimes fear, that I'll be away from God, you know, um, and it's a deep fear, like what if God abandons me? You know, I can't exist. So that, I don't know. I mean, correlating all these things, right? This feeling is not good feeling. I'm feeling very weird
Actually, the
feeling.
answer was there. No?
I know it's one thought away.
No, but you said that if God abandons me, I can't exist. See if you can meet that without my further explanation. Existence is what?
I'm feeling intense fear.
Yes. No, I'm just saying that the God that you're finding, is it possible that you could exist but it not be there?
No.
Then it's not possible.
Yes.
So it is not possible for those who are truly coming to the discovery of God, for God to abandon them. But it is always possible for us to abandon God again for the mind.
Yeah.
The human condition is it? So is our fear that God will abandon us or that we may abandon God again? Because the God that we are finding, there's no question of it leaving. We can push it to the background and push it away by indulging in thought-based things.
Thank you for that.
So, and the fear, by the way, is an attempt by the mind to do that.
Okay.
So one metaphor is coming, or like a similar thing. So suppose you said you fell in love with a girl who says that I don't like any boy who has fear. Hmm? Then what you will do? I don't like any boy who has fear. Then you're trying to, is she going to leave me? But that itself is the fear which will make her distant. So this is what the mind plays. It is telling you, I'm scared God will go away. But its notion of being scared is just to take you away from God. So leave the fear, stay with God. All this human yearning for your love, once we love God and notice God's love for us, we never have that again. That expecting it to come from somebody else or from the world or from somewhere. Just don't come. This is a beautiful part about the love for God that you feel content, you feel full. There are many who in spirituality who will claim a lot of love for God. I love God so much, I love God so much. And this is in relation to what I was saying earlier, not with your report, which is very nice. But I was saying that you notice that they may say, God. But you can sense in their whole manner that they are grasping, clawing. So really they're not, although they may speak about a great love for God, it's um, not yet a lived experience. You feel just so full. I used to tell these kids, no, I don't know if she remembers, I'm feeling so much love, so much love. I could cut it into slices and give to all of you, and I wouldn't know what to do with it. There's so much love. What do I do with it? And most human grasping actually is the need to feel love. But when you get it direct from the source, then this world cannot push you around. The world's approval systems are based on negotiating love. You make me happy, entertain me, I will give you a like. Uh, and more it's becoming like that. But once you find the whole ocean in your heart, all this dancing images in front, make no difference to you. So love God. And after loving God fully in your heart, if you still experience some fear of God, then that is called awe. That is called awe, to feel awe, wonder, reverence. Because love and fear truly cannot coexist. You see that? But we find in many traditions that they say love God, fear God, and even together sometimes. You notice that in India we say जब प्यार किया तो डरना क्या. People become like really courageous when they're in love. Because when you're experiencing this love, you don't notice that which was scary earlier. You see, but with God it's a little different. As you're meeting the immensity of it, no? It's like if I suddenly told you that there's a huge mountain inside you, like bigger than Mount Everest. Of course, you can love it, but even to meet it or to embrace it seems so impossible because we have lived with our notion about ourselves being in such a tiny construct that it seems awe-inspiring, even intimidating at some level. And that is actually, I feel, healthy. because it avoids putting God into a limiting construct just because we can relate to the limiting construct better. So if the construct is always a bit out of reach, and there's a bit of wonder, there's a bit of awe, there's a bit of intimidation that we meet, that we find in the presence of God, just even in the idea of God, I feel it's very good for our ego, to keep our ego in check. Because as our insights will deepen about God, notice the vastness of the one that we are talking about, the magnificence, the innocence of the intelligence of that one. I mean it fully literally when I say that every day I feel like I'm just starting out on this discovery, just starting out, a beginner, because the immensity of the grace and look at the wonder of this. Like, what are we even talking about? The wonder of this. In this visible world, where everything is made up of, apparently made up of atoms and molecules and all of that, there are all these bodies which are made up of food, digested food, all of this. And because our attachment and identification is so deep with this, even in that, God has found a way to reveal Himself. Although it's not His true position, but even then we may say that in my heart, which coincides in seeming with my physical heart, I find God's light. Isn't it the most absurd thing that in this bucket of food, is it? If I look really deeply within, I can come to the light of God Himself, which is beyond all perception, beyond all time and space. What other proof of His love do we need? That in the human condition it would be so difficult if we do not have a way so directly to find His presence within. And that which is universal. You can talk to anyone from any part of the world and say, look within yourself. And of course, I make it a point to say within yourself. But to start with, even if you said look within you and you consider yourself to be the body, and if you were to really look, you will find the light of God. Kabir ji said, Har ghat mein Ram. Sound like such a simple statement. In every body there is Ram. What if you were to take it literally? Was he lying? Who must that God be that has made himself present, seemingly even this inside these bundles of flesh and blood? Whose presence animates your life? So one child said, when I needed him the most, he was not there. How to explain? Should we make a schedule and timetable and say, okay, Monday afternoon, Tuesday evening, when my life is like this, then you please be there? Because he doesn't know. Like, he has to be told by us, I need you the most now. Because all this talk about him being the light of the universe is just talk, because he doesn't know. We just haven't met him. Because to come to the mountain and then make a report that, oh, the mountain was in my pocket yesterday, but today is not there. We really haven't met the mountain. Then. Where was he when I needed him? A popular lament. No? कहाँ थे तुम? What to say? As long as we keep thinking that we know better, there's no end to this stuff. What within us knows anything at all? If God was not there, is knowledge possible? Like, I know I need you. What is that know? What is that know? That know is possible without God? I know you are not there. What is that know? Is it possible to know and for him not to be there? Thank you. Thank you all.